In the last video, we created a perfect tactic for AS Roma based off the players that were already at the squad, and then of course getting our tactic ideas across. People liked the video, so we're going to make it a little series, and today we had a few requests for FC Barcelona. Can you do the same video for FC Barcelona? And that's exactly what we did. So we've created a perfect tactic for FC Barcelona using the players already at the squad. Of course, there's many tactics, there's many formations that we could have used at Barcelona to be successful, but the purpose in this video is using the players that are already at the squad, getting the best out of those players, and of course creating that perfect tactic. If you are enjoying this type of content, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, you can share it. And in this video what we're going to do is look at the results, how we created a tactic, play a game to see how the tactic plays out, and then hopefully you guys download it or get your own ideas and create your own perfect tactic. But for now, let's get stuck into the video. So the purpose of this video is looking at ways to create a perfect tactic for a specific team, not necessarily create a perfect Football Manager tactic, and I believe a few people kind of got that misunderstood. So we are FC Barcelona, and the results that we got using this perfect tactic, we finished the season on top of the La Liga. We played 38, we won 32 of those 38 games, we drew 4, losing 2. In the UEFA Champions League, we got knocked out in the first round by Liverpool, but it was very close. I mean, Liverpool are a very good side in this game, and you really have to be on your A game when you are playing them at Anfield. It's very unlucky we got them in the first knockout round, otherwise I believe we would have got far in this competition. But we drew Liverpool in the first knockout round, we lost 4-2 on aggregate. The first game at home, it was a very good game, we dominated, but then the away leg, I mean, yeah, it's Liverpool. In the Copa del Rey, we were the winners, and the Super Copa, we were the winners of that as well. So technically, we did win the treble with FC Barcelona. So we can look at some of the season stats in the La Liga. We had the most points per game, of course. For the most goals, we scored 109. For the most shots for, we had the most, and we had the fewest shots against. For the best pass completion, we finished on 91%. And for the most possession, or the average possession, we finished in third place with 55%. So for the style of football, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we're looking at the tactic or when we're breaking down the tactic, and you're going to see why we aren't at the top, because a lot of people are going to be expecting a very high possession base, tiki-taka. It is heavy possession base, but we do have other ways to attack the opponent. And for the clean sheets, Barcelona were 24, for the fewest conceded, Barcelona again. Looking at the top goal scorers, Memphis Depay with 28 goals, Gerard Piqué with 15. You know the set piece routine is working very well. Jordi Alba got 20 assists on the left hand side. Most man of the match awards, Memphis Depay, Jordi Alba both in the list. For the most key passes, Jordi Alba on top of that list in La Liga. Looking at the clean sheets, Ter Stegen of course, and for the fewest conceded, Ter Stegen. So in the squad we can see who were the most important players. Memphis Depay, he scored 31 goals in 43 starts. Ansu Fati got 17 goals, so did Gerard Piqué, again the set piece routine, shout out to that. Ferran Torres got 16 goals, Luke de Jong got 12. For the highest assists, Jordi Alba with 22, Ansu Fati with 10. Now we can move over to the data hub. Looking at the pass map, you're going to have an idea of the formation that we used, and it's a very good pass map against Osasuna. You can see the very heavy link up. It is heavy possession based, as we can see here, a lot of wide rotations, a lot of wide recycling as well. So you can see that we are using the wide areas very heavily, and you can see that we're using 3 at the back. So there are some clues, Looking at the team attacking, we scored 2.87 goals per game. We had expected goals of 2.32 per game. Defensively, if we're looking at the expected goals allowed or against, 0.81. So according to the expected metrics, we were expected to win every game 2-0. I mean, if that's how it works. Looking at the XG, we were expected to score around 88 goals, but we scored 109. For the expected points, around 81 expected points, but the actual points is 100. But we were expected to win the league, which is what we did, of course. But that wraps up the results. Now what we can do is look at the tactic and how we created it. And the first step is always looking at the squad. I mean, my cat is there and he's putting me off. So here is the squad. What you would have noticed is that we do have Adama Traore and we also have Ferran Torres. So the game we are using a transfer update. So what we can do is go to the tactics, go to create your own style. I mean, you can just use a 4-4-2 for now. And then what we're going to be doing is looking at the player's start ability and just dropping them into the tactic. I mean, Ter Stegen, of course, is going to play in goal. So we're just going to put him in goal for now. Frankie de Jong, he's a central midfielder, attacking midfielder and defensive. He can play in a lot of positions. But for now, we're just going to stick him in central midfield. We got Dembele, but he is injured and injured for 6 months. So it's very unlikely we're going to build a tactic based on him as well. Jordi Alba, a complete wing back. So that's important. And Memphis Depay, he can play on the wing as an inverted winger or he can play up top. Now, what we're going to do, because I know Barcelona don't have many great strikers, we're just going to select the striker position and look at the players highlighted. Now, none of these players are particularly good, and I believe Memphis Depay is the best striker at the squad, so it's more than likely we're going to have to use him up top. So Gerard Piqué, centre back. Sergio Busquets, another central midfield. So we could have a central midfield that is based around Frankie de Jong and Sergio Busquets. We also have Ferran Torres, who is a winger, so we could just shift him out on the flank. We have Lenglet here, so we're going to put Lenglet on the left and Gerard Piqué on the right. We have Umtiti and Ronald Araujo as well as the centre back, and I mean, this guy is fairly good. He's very good. Very good. His potential ability is at 4 stars as well. So actually, central defense, it looks like our strong point in this tactic. So we got Lenglet, we got Gerard Piqué, who are going to be first team centre backs, and we got Ronald Araujo, who can be a first team centre back as well, and he also has high potential. A 3 at the back looks very likely for FC Barcelona. So we're just going to shift or put Sergio Araujo there, put him in centre back. So we got 3 at the back. Jordi Alba, of course, is going to be a wing back, so we're just going to shift him up as a wing back. And there we kind of have a back 3 and a wing back, and we're just going to have to find the right wing back now. So we shift Ferran Torres, who can operate. No, he can't. He can't play as a wing back, so we can look to maybe replace him with Sergio Roberto, Dani Alves, Sergino Dest, or Vagu. And we also have Traore as well. So we have a lot of wing backs at this squad. Again, this suits a 3 at the back because you're going to need to have good central defenders and you're going to need to have good wing backs, which Barcelona clearly do have. So now we figured out that we're using a 3 at the back. I mean, what's going to happen in midfield and attack? We're going to have to figure out the rest of the shape. So we've got the 3 at the back. So now we may have to look at who can play in midfield and who can play on the flanks. Maybe we're going to have to use a tactic without any wingers, or maybe we have to opt for a 3-4-3. So again, I'm just going to put a player out on the flanks and I'm going to highlight who are the wingers. We have Dembele, who's injured. We have Ferran Torres, who is good, maybe not star ability. We have Pedri, who I believe is way better in the middle. We have Ansu Fati as well. So looking at these players, I don't actually believe the flanks is an area of strength. I believe the defense, the wing backs is an area of strength. In central midfield, we are very decent with Frankie de Jong, Sergio Busquets. If either of those two get injured, we have Pedri, we have Sergio Roberto, Gavi, Ricky Puig. And in attacking midfield, again, we have a few players that can play in attacking midfield, a few good ones as well. Memphis Depay if need to be, Frankie de Jong if need to be, but we also have Pedri, again, Gavi and Ricky Puig. So we have some nice rotations, players that can play in central midfield, that can play in attacking midfield. So it is looking like a 3-4-1-2. So we can put Pedri in attacking midfield. So here we have kind of the main side. We have the back 3 of Lenglet, Araujo, Piqué, wing backs, Alba, Traore. In central midfield, we have de Jong, Busquets. In attacking midfield, we have Pedri. Up top, we have Memphis Depay. His strike partner is not going to be very well suited for playing up front. So we have Ansu Fati, who can play up front. We have Luke de Jong, who does play up front, but he's not the greatest player. And we also have Braithwaite as well, or Braithwaite. I mean, another player who can play up top, but he's not the best striker. One thing though about Martin Braithwaite is that I like his work rate. I like his off the ball movement. He's got decent flair and decent concentration. So he might be kind of a carrier for the side. So he might be the player that has to work hard for the others to flourish. So someone like a pressing forward who can play up top with with the advanced forward who's going to be the main goal scorer, and behind them can be the advanced playmaker or a playmaker who's not going to work as hard. So Martin Braithwaite has to be the player that's pressing, working hard for the side, and he's using his teamwork and work rate to his advantage for the team. He's working hard for the team, allowing the others to be more expressive. That is an idea, and that is something that we can use. Luke de Jong is fairly similar. He's got high work rate, a high teamwork, someone that works very hard for the team, and in attack he can allow the others to flourish. I believe Memphis Depay can be an advanced forward, and either of those other two strikers can be a pressing forward. Now, a strength in this formation from what I can see is that we are able to overload in the central midfield. Of course, this depends on the shape that the opponents are going to be using, but if they are using a shape with two central midfielders, we do have the opportunity to have an overload in the central areas. But not just in the central areas, we can also have an overload in the wider areas. So this tactic can just form overloads all over the park. So on the flanks, we can have a wing back, we can have a wide centre back drifting out, we can have one of the central midfielders drifting out or one of the strikers drifting out. Again, this can cause a 3 versus 2 or a 2 versus 1 out in the wider areas. So we are going to be trying to utilize the overloads in the middle and the overloads on the flank. In the middle, that's naturally going to happen due to the player's positioning. We have two central midfielders and we already have the advanced playmaker operating in those areas. But on the flanks, we only have one player on the flank on the left and one on the right. To get more over to those sides, to get them to drift over to those sides, we can focus play down both flanks. So if we are attacking intensely down the left flank, what you're going to see is the left side of the centre back move over, one of the central midfielders move over, and the striker as well. So we can have a heavy overload on the flanks, and we can also have an overload in the central areas. Now, the fact that we only have one player on each flank, that of course highlights a weakness. Now, the opponents can always just attack down the flanks because they too can have a 2 versus 1 against our wing backs. So I know that I am going to avoid defending narrowly because we don't want to force them on the outside. That is our weakness. So forcing them on the outside is something that we are really going to avoid. So we can leave it on standard or we can force them on the inside. Forcing them on the inside is always going to depend on the roles that we're using as well, because if players are vacating their position in central areas, again, we don't want to force them into positions that we aren't going to be strong in. So for the defensive width, we're just going to leave it on standard, but I just know that we are going to avoid narrow. And now going back to the strengths, we do have wing backs and they can advance. They can get further forward. They can be very aggressive in the system, knowing that either of the centre backs can cover them behind them. So what we can do is get the best out of these wing backs, put them on attack. Jordi Alba, he likes to get further forward, he runs down the left, he plays 1-2, he knocks the ball past the opponents, he's got pace. Why not use attack? We can really use his skills, and the same for Adama Traore. He has the pace to get further forward, but he also likes to run with the ball. He likes to knock the ball past the opponent, so I want him to be dribbling more, getting towards the byline, be more direct, be more aggressive in possession. So we are using the wing backs on attack, and because we want those overload in the wider areas, and we also want cover because they are both getting further forward, we know that both of the wider centre backs are now going to be wide centre backs, a new role in Football Manager. And in the middle, we're just going to be using a ball playing defender because that's just going to be the best role for any of these central defenders. So at the back, we have two wide centre backs, we have a ball playing centre back, and we have two wing backs on attack. So the aim is of course to create wide overloads, but how are these going to be effective? Are we just going to create overloads for the sake of it, or we're going to try and use this to be effective? Now for the wide centre backs, they do very well with the overlapping runs and underlapping runs, and this can make the overload effective by having a player consistently penetrating. The wing backs are always going to be penetrating, but if they aren't able to, who else is? And we can always have one of those wide centre backs penetrating. So for the left side, we can use a wide centre back under attacking duty because he is going to be overlapping or underlap, making either of those runs, and this can make that overload on the left hand side fairly effective. So this is how we're going to line up at the back. For the goalkeeper, we're just going to use the sweeper keeper on support. This is how we are going to be lining up at the back. Now in central midfield, how we're going to get the best out of Frenkie de Jong and Sergio Busquets. They are both ball playing defenders. Frenkie de Jong though has the higher agility, the higher balance. His strength isn't too great, but he can dribble the ball. He's got decent flair. He likes to bring the ball out of defense, but he also tries to play his way out of trouble. So We are going to be playing out from the defense. I believe that's going to be best for this side. Sergio Busquets as well, someone that likes to stay back at all time, but he has the attributes to be playing out from the back. But looking at Sergio Busquets and his player traits, he likes to stay back at all times. He plays short, simple passes as well. So he's going to be more restrictive. He's going to have more of a restricted movement. So for Sergio Busquets, we could use him as a deep lying playmaker. We can also use him as a central midfielder on defend, possibly. Now I'm thinking what we could do, what I didn't do, is against the weaker sides. So when we're trying to play more positively, we can use him as a deep line playmaker on support. But against the bigger sides, we can use him as a central midfielder on defend. They're doing similar things. They're trying to control the game, stop the opponents counter-attacking. But of course, the deep line playmaker is someone a lot more creative. Now for Frankie de Jong, we can use him as a ball carrier. He can bring the ball out from the defense, but he can also travel with the ball out from the defense with the ball at his feet. So he could be more of a box-to-box midfielder, more of a ball carrier, someone that's getting up and down. He's got very good anticipation, very good off-the-ball movement as well. We can try and utilize that. We can try and use his attributes to our strength. So we are going to be using him as a box-to-box midfielder, and that gives us the nice typical number 6 and number 8 relationship in central midfield. Now for attacking midfield, to get the best out of Pedri, this is where we can add another playmaker. He likes to try killer balls. He likes to run with the ball more often, but he's got very good passing, very good vision, very good technique. The first touch, the anticipation, decision making, everything is all there to be a very good creative player in the final third, and that is exactly how we are going to be using him. And you can also see as well for the scout report, I mean, he's equally as good in all roles in the attacking midfield area, but we will be using him as the advanced playmaker, someone that's very creative, again trying to get the best out of Pedri in the attacking area. So advanced playmaker is the role that we are going to be using. Lastly, now for the strike as well, we've already sorted out the striking positions up top. This here looks like the tactic that we can go with. It's a 3-4-1-2, I believe. That's how I'm going to call it anyway. And it isn't the formation that you would typically go with Barcelona. Everybody associates Barcelona with a 4-3-3. We've done something very different. We've done something based off what is at the squad. So this is my idea of the best shape, the best roles, the best tactic, whatever for Barcelona. Now it's all about getting our tactical ideas across and also the player instructions. So let's move over to that part of the video. So welcome back, and now we're trying to get our tactical ideas across. Of course, it's our own tactical ideas, but it's also about what Barcelona can do and also what's best for the formation and the roles that we are using. So for the mentality, we're going to go with something more positive. Of course we are. With Barcelona, we're trying to stamp our authority on the game. So we're going to go with a positive mentality at first. This can always be changed. Now, I'm just going to give you a tip because of course I know the tactic is all done and wrapped up already. When you are playing against the bigger sides, you can drop down to cautious, or you should drop down to cautious, as I should be saying. So against the bigger sides, or even teams that are the similar level as you, basically the big games, you can use the cautious mentality. And when you are trying to be the more positive, the more dominant side, you use the positive mentality, which is probably 90% of the time. Now for the attacking width, what I found out, the best way to free up the wingers or the wing backs is to play in the middle of the area. So where we're overloading in the central areas, we can play in the middle, force the opponents to defend narrowly and in the middle, and this should be able to free up our wing backs, where we can then hit the ball out to the flanks, get those wingers down to the byline, whip the ball in hard and low into our strikers. This happened a lot of the times, and I believe it's the attacking width that helps. Well, I know it's the attacking width that helps. Now for the attacking width, if you lift it out fairly wide, your team are naturally just going to be playing the ball out into the wider areas. Once you're already out in the wider areas, they can defend in the wider areas, and it's harder for you to be effective and build those overloads out in the wider areas. So the attacking width, fairly narrow. Passing directness, I believe we can go to much shorter. We can attempt to be very controlled in possession, but for the tempo, we can get the ball further up the pitch, because that is where our danger players will be. They're going to be operating in the attacking third, so we want the ball to be getting to them as quickly as possible. So for the tempo, we're going to be using much higher, and I just prefer much higher tempo anyway in Football Manager. Lastly, we're going to work the ball into the box. Of course, be a little bit more patient once we do work the ball into the final third, sending low crosses because we really have no aerial advantage whatsoever. And for the creative freedom, we can be more expressive in the attacking areas as well. We got some very good players. Our advanced playmaker can be more expressive. Our advanced forward, Memphis Depay, can be more expressive. After all, this is the reason why we are using a pressing forward, someone that's going to be working very hard, someone with high teamwork, someone with high work rate, and this should allow some of our players to be a little bit more creative. When the possession has been lost, we will be counter pressing. When the possession has been won, we will make our counter movements. So the idea is to be controlled in possession, but not to the extent where we're not making any counter attacking movements. When the goalkeeper's in possession, he's just going to distribute the ball to either of the fullbacks or the centre backs, and he will be rolling it out when he does so. Lastly, for out of possession, we're going to be using a higher defense line, and we're going to be using a higher line of engagement, just a higher press, not the most extreme, but a little bit extreme. We are trying to be the more dominant side during the 90 minutes, and for the trigger press, much more often prevent the short goalkeeper distribution. The trigger press, you can play with it, you can leave it on much more often, you can drop it down to more often. It is basically your preference. I don't believe neither of the two make this tactic better or worse. I preferred much more often. With that, I believe we were more aggressive, we turned the ball over a lot more, and we kind of scored more goals, but we did concede a few. Now, with the more often trigger press, you're a little bit more reserved in your press, therefore becoming a bit more solid in defense. You concede less, but of course, you won't turn over possession as much. So for the trigger press, again, your preference, whatever you prefer, much more often or more often. And that there is the tactic all wrapped up, the instructions, the player roles. Now we have to figure out what we're going to do with the player instructions. Now, similar to the Roma video where I used the data hub for the team instructions, in this video or this tactic, it is very similar, but I didn't need to use it as heavy as I did with AS Roma. Now, for the data hub at Barcelona, what I was looking at is basically what I wanted from each player. So for an example, for the wing backs, I want them to be assistant. That's going to be their job. I want them to be productive in the final third. Now it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get a lot of assists, but comparing them with the other defenders in the league, I do want them to have kind of a high average compared to the other defenders in the league. And that kind of lets me know that the defenders or the wing backs are assisting quite regularly enough. And same for the tackling and the passing for the defenders. We are playing out from the back, so the defenders need to be accurate with their passing. With the higher tempo, I have noticed that they are kind of not going to listen to the maintain possession and kind of just play the more risky pass from the get-go. So by looking at this data here, I mean the accurate passing, a lot of passes, I believe this can be a lot better for the central defenders. So what I did is went to my central defenders and I basically told the back three to pass it short, for them to basically just maintain or retain the possession and get their passing a little bit more accurate, and also make them attempt more passes as well. Though we are trying to play with a quicker tempo, we are trying to get the ball from the back to the front at the quickest tempo possible, it doesn't mean that we should be needlessly giving the ball away. So for the defenders, they are going to be passing it shorter, but if we go back to the passing for the tackling as well, we are trying to be aggressive, and I don't believe my centre backs have been aggressive enough. In theory, tackle harder doesn't mean that they're going to get better at tackling. Watching the highlights though, my centre backs in particular, they were being beaten, just not being aggressive enough. So I noticed that my midfield area was kind of aggressive, and then my centre backs wasn't as aggressive, and they just wasn't being forceful enough in their tackles. They would rather just run with the player rather than tackle with the player. The central defender can also dribble more with the ball. This is nothing to do with the data hub. I just like my ball playing defender to be dribbling with the ball, bring it further forward, push the team higher up. And for the wide centre back on the defensive duty, we do want him to be crossing less often, because he's going to be crossing from deep, something that we do not want. For the wing backs, they are just totally fine. They performed very well. The data hub as well, for me, they're performing very well. We do not need to touch anything. Now I have kind of skipped to the attackers, because the data hub, again, for the midfield area, it didn't really tell me anything where I need to improve. They do have added instructions, but they were added instructions that I just put in because it's obviously my preference and what I felt is getting the best out of those players. So in midfield, we didn't use the data hub for the added instructions, but up top, now for the forward, the pressing forward, though I know I said earlier I just want him to be working hard for the team, he's also got to be productive for the side as well. Luke de Jong, Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati were the three main pressing forwards. Now Ansu Fati doesn't have the teamwork and work rate to do so, so I only played him against a very weak opposition. So Luke de Jong and Ferran Torres were the main forwards or the main pressing forwards, and I don't believe they had a good enough attacking output. So what I did was made this pressing forward on support to be attacking. He still plays in for his teammates and he also still works hard for the team. So we're still getting everything that we wanted originally from the pressing forward, with more goals and more assists. Now for the other player instructions for the deep line playmaker, he's got the shorter passing, again keeping possession for the side, and he's the one that is dictating the tempo as well. So it's important to make sure that your playmakers are doing exactly what you want from your team in general. For the box-to-box midfielder, he's going to be getting further forward when the team has the ball, try and help the play in the more attacking areas, because we have 3 central defenders, we have 2 wing backs, and we also have that deep line playmaker as well. We don't necessarily need so many deep players at once. So once the team has the ball, he can get further forward to help the attack or just move defenders away or around in the attacking areas. He's also going to be pressing more often as well, so we're just going to reduce this. He is going to be closing down more often. And for the advanced playmaker, similar to the deep line playmaker, we're going to be using shorter passing. He's also going to roam from his position and he's going to be more aggressive by tackling harder. So that there is the tactic all wrapped up, all concluded. This is how I created a perfect tactic for Barcelona. So what we're going to do now is get into a game and look at how the tactic plays out. Let's get stuck in. So this is the team that I've gone with. I mean, this is basically the strongest side that I have. Adama Traore is not playing actually. He wasn't fit. He wasn't completely fit. He's just returning to full fitness, but he's also slightly unhappy about the game time. He hasn't been a great signing, if I'm totally honest. His teamwork, it kind of lets him down. He's a bit selfish. He is a bit selfish, but that there is a tactic that we're going to go with, or the team that we're going to go with. Let's get into this game. Ter Stegen makes a really important save. Seville putting some early pressure on, but that was breathtaking by Jordi Alba. They are not giving us... Oh, there's the highlight. Jordi Alba with the throw. Braithwaite now. Jordi Alba plays a long pass looking for the Memphis Depay, but it's nicely cut out by Diego Carlos for Seville. Now here comes Seville on the counter attack. Sergio Busquets cuts that out. Nice defending there. There's Lenglet. Sergio. Nice football there. He finds Memphis. That's the ball that he was looking for originally. And Memphis Depay should have put the ball in the back of the net. Here's Ocampos now for Seville. Papu Gomez. He plays a loose pass. Araujo cuts it out. Here's Frenkie de Jong. Gavi. Sergio. Well, there was an opportunity for the 1-2, but that's a nice ball by de Jong. Play it cross. Pen it. Oh, and there's a goal. Jordi Alba. He gets his 5th goal of the season. I mean, that's a good amount of goals for a wing back, especially we're only in December, I believe, and that's his 5th goal of the season. A lot of goals like that, but what a ball by de Jong. Sergino Dest. Now, this is what Traore doesn't do. Traore would have shot in that position, and that kind of messes up the whole flow of the attack. But we worked the ball nicely, and it was a nice clear-cut goal there. It's now a corner. Jordi Alba whips it in. Araujo heads the ball over the bar. Here is Seville with a corner. PK heads the ball out. Braithwaite is chasing that. Go on, you pressing forward. Rakitic now on the ball. Jesus Navas. Here's Corona now. And it's 1-0 at half time. I'm going to go back to the attack to make sure everything is sorted, because we aren't defending like how we usually do. Here's Jordi Alba with a corner. He whips it in. And they've headed it out. It falls to Sergio now. Gavi. De Jong plays it out to Lenglet. Back to Sergio. Nice football. And Jordi Alba has got another goal. I mean, Jordi Alba has been on absolute fire this season. Absolute fire. I mean, I think the keeper could have done better there. It's kind of just rolling in. There's Sergio. Plays it to Jordi. Turns. It was a nice finish. It was in the corner. But the pace of the ball just makes me feel that the keeper could have done a little bit better. It does not matter. Oh, there's another corner. Another attack for Barca. Lenglet doesn't win that header. Here's Gavi now. Plays it back to Jordi Alba. Whip that, son. Hard and low. Memphis is falling to someone. It's falling into the back of the net. And there is Memphis to... Oh, no. It's offside. Got a bit happy. Oh, no. It's free. It is free. It does count. Jordi Alba, he puts it in hard and low. That is the danger of a hard and low cross. And yeah, I mean, Memphis just tried to tackle it. It's just gone off his foot and it's gone in. It doesn't matter. It is now 3 goals to the 0. Come on, the boys. Here's Jordi Alba. Look at him. He's just free. That's poor defending. Football Manager's got to do better there. Jordi Alba going for his hat-trick. Braithwaite wants to get on the score sheet now. Here's Jordi Alba towards that byline and hard and low. Oh no, he plays it back to Sergio. Back to Jordi. Gavi, and there's another assist by Jordi Alba, but it's the 2nd goal of the season for Gavi. It's 4 to Barcelona. I mean, the second half, it's just been all us. It has been all us. Seville didn't take their chances in the first half, and now, I mean, this is what happens when you don't take your chances. So go. So up top for Braithwaite, if we could just bring on Ferran Torres. I believe he's got the good work rating. It's okay. For the advanced playmaker, we can bring on Ricky Puig, who's actually not fit. Jordi Alba. We can bring on Balde. Let's just see this game out. No, Ricky Puig with a corner. It goes to PK's head and it goes over the bar. I like the fact that we make them pass it backwards, but after we pass it backwards, we don't press the... which is fairly annoying. Oh my god, what have they done? And I mentioned that in the stream yesterday, actually, that we should have like options of when to press intensely. So a trigger press, we've just got the trigger press knob, but we don't know what the trigger press actually is. So backwards pass should be one of the trigger presses, and you can see that we just didn't press at all. And Memphis to play, that should be 5. I know it's gonna go to VAR. I just knew it would. Oh, get off, man. That was a nice goal as well. And here is Seville with a corner. Oh, let's drop down to cautious because I really want this clean sheet. Don't tell me I've just given them a goal now that I've dropped to cautious. Papi Gomez. Oh, that's a goal. Oh, it's a save. It's a great save by ter Stegen. Don't you just hate that though when you go back a little bit more reserved and then all of a sudden you just can see the goal. Here is Balde now. Sergio. This is probably going to be the last highlight of the game. Balde put... what is that? Arujo now. Plays it to PK. Sergio. There's a guy out wide. Look at his free. This is what happens when we play narrow. This frees out the wing backs. And I'm just looking for someone to play that ball out there. He plays it back to ter Stegen. He kicks it forward to Ferran. Now to Balde. He's driving towards that byline because he's free. Puts the ball in the net and it's Ricky Puig, and it is 5. Barca 5, Seville 0. That can't be offside. Yeah, it wasn't. They were questioning if Ferran Torres was offside, but nah. Balde plays it to Sergio. Look at this wide overload. We're just getting bodies out in the wider areas. And again, once we get the ball out wide, we can shift them out wide, try and create more space in the middle, and it's similar to what we just did in that occasion. And the game finishes 5-0. It was fairly comfortable. Seville got a very decent XG actually, but I mean, they could have scored earlier in the game. Other than that, they were out of the game. And that wraps up this video, unfortunately. Now, we can talk about training, but I've got a training video, and all you have to do is put in these training schedules, and you should be a-okay. So that there is a video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed it, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like the video, share the video. All of that is going to help. Shout out to my patrons as well. I'll see all of you guys soon. Stay safe. Peace out.